The sun was slowly dipping below the horizon, allowing it to paint the sky over Oak Creek a warm orange. Alex Thompson was walking along a familiar forest path after one day's work in his auto repair shop. A cool autumn wind rustled the foliage of oaks centuries old. Evening silence was broken only by the sound of his footsteps on the fallen leaves. Alex often came this way home to get some respite from the hustle and bustle of the city. On this particular day, Alex felt a little wary, to say the least. Even the clouds took bizarre shapes in the sky, and birds flew low above the ground. The wind picked up, and unfamiliar smells came with it. The animals of the forest were acting peculiarly. The squirrels wouldn't stay around, but ran away quickly at his approach. Here the deer we met on our path just froze, as if nailed to it. Even those crows sitting in the trees stopped croaking. It was quite a tense moment. At once from far away, some weird sound was heard, a kind of moan. The sound came again, and now closer. A chill ran down my spine. Something told him this sound didn't belong to ordinary forest dwellers. The crowns of the trees were so dense that they almost did not let in the last rays of the setting sun. The shadows lengthened and grew thicker. Every bush, every tree began to take on a sinister form. Alex quickened his pace, trying to stay on the familiar path. An unexpected gust of wind brought a smell that seemed completely foreign to this forest. It was a heavy, animalistic smell, like those found in the cages of a zoo. Alex felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. Something unusual and even sinister was going on in this forest, that was for sure. A shadow flashed ahead too large for the local animals. She moved slowly, like a wounded creature. Alex slowed his pace, peering into the semi-darkness. My heart was pounding in my chest. My hands became wet with excitement. The dry leaves beneath his feet rustled treacherously with every step. Alex tried to walk as quietly as possible. Somewhere nearby, a branch cracked. The man turned his head sharply at the sound. In the twilight, everything seemed distorted and unreal. Low clouds covered the last rays of the sun. It became even darker in the forest. Alex took out his phone to turn on the flashlight. The screen showed no signal. It was strange. Normally the connection was fine here. This new sound sent a shiver down his spine. It sounded like the heavy, ragged breathing of some huge animal. The sound was growing louder. Alex felt a cold sweat break out all over him. His body stiffened into an automatic awareness of danger. In front of him, something flickered bright in the darkness. It was like a light reflecting off the large eyes. Alex froze. His feet seemed to root to the ground. The creature in the darkness also stopped. It was huge. Alex tried to calm his breathing. His mind refused to believe his eyes. In the gap between the trees, he made out a silhouette that could not possibly belong to a local animal. That was something much bigger and dangerous. The creature took a step forward. The moonlight, filtered out from behind clouds, revealed a massive head with a thick mane. Alex felt his heart leap to a halt. Before him stood a lion, an actual African lion in the middle of the forests of Wyoming. The first instinct was to run. Alex slowly stepped back, his muscles tensed, ready for a sudden movement. But something in the lion's behavior stopped him. It did not appear to be an aggressive predator. On the contrary, he looked exhausted and weak. The lion swayed as if it was hard for him to stand. His fur was dirty and kinky. The ribs showed clearly under the skin. On the side, some old scars were visible. Clearly, it wasn't any wild beast, but a prisoner of someone that had managed to break free. Alex noticed a frayed collar on the lion's neck. The metal shone dimly in the faint light. An old collar on his neck testified that this predator had been in captivity for quite a long time. But how did he appear here, in wilderness, far from people? The beast uttered a low grumble. Pain and fatigue were in his eyes. Alex felt his fear turn into compassion. Before him stood not a formidable predator, but an exhausted animal in need of help. Alex slowly took his backpack off, trying not to make unnecessary movements. His natural fear of the huge predator shackled his whole body. Leo watched every movement of a person. In amber eyes of the beast, one could read wariness. In his rucksack was a sandwich with turkey, which Alex hadn't managed to eat at lunchtime. He took it out with care, unfolding rustling paper. The smell of food raised the lion's head. In his eyes flickered a light of curiosity. Shaking all over, Alex broke the sandwich into pieces. He placed the biggest one on the ground and stepped back slowly. His heart was racing so hard that it felt like it could jump out of his chest. The lion sniffed at the food. The motions of the predator were slow and cautious. He approached the treat, but was constantly glancing at Alex. Hunger prevailed over fear, and the lion swallowed the food offered in a jiffy. An almost pleading expression appeared on his face. Then Alex brought out a bottle of water. He removed the lid and made an improvised bowl out of it. After filling it with water, the man stepped backward again. The lion drank all the water greedily and quickly licked every drop with his tongue. After having eaten and drunk, there was a difference in the lion's behavior. His eyes started telling something. The tautness in his powerful body eased just a little. He moved a few steps to the side, as if inviting Alex to follow him. Alex understood that he needed to take the lion to the veterinarian. There was a modern clinic in the city where they could help the animal. He tried to send the beast towards the city, but the lion resisted and started moving obstinately in the opposite direction. Suppressing another panic attack, Alex decided to follow the animal. The thick thickets ahead seemed impassable in the thickening darkness. Lev walked confidently forward, often turning around to Alex. There was a strange determination in his eyes. He clearly knew where he was going and wanted to show something to the man. The twilight was thickening with every minute. Alex stumbled over the roots of trees, barely distinguishing the road. Lev moved slowly as if adjusting to his pace. Sometimes he stopped, waiting for a person to overcome some very difficult part of the path. Some half an hour had already passed. The forest gradually thinned out. A strange smell began to make its way through the trees, a mixture of metal, old straw, and some animals. Inexplicable anxiety overwhelmed Alex. He felt that they were getting closer to the disclosure of the mystery of the lion's appearance in the local forests. And suddenly, the forest parted, revealing an old dirt road. The ruts were practically invisible in the twilight because tall grass grew in them. The air here was different, heavy, with an admixture of unfamiliar smells. Alex stopped, trying to orient himself. The moon came out from behind the clouds, and the abandoned terrain ahead illuminated with its ghostly light. In the dim light, the outlines of dilapidated buildings appeared. The old posters, faded and torn, fluttered in the wind. Metal structures creaked menacingly. An abandoned circus stretches in front of them. The big top, so bright and festive, was a sad sight now. Its cloths were burnt and torn, hanging wistfully from the rusted supports. The wind drove scraps of old programs on the ground. The lion quickened his pace, heading towards the circus buildings. His tail was tense, his ears pressed against his head. Alex followed, feeling every step echo in the oppressive silence. The broken glass crunched under his feet. The unpleasant smell was getting stronger. A metallic taste in the air mixed with spirits of cells, which hadn't been cleaned for quite a while. Alex heard faint sounds, moans, and rustles that came from the darkness. His heart sank with foreboding. The lion came to a stop in front of a row of cages, partially masked by the darkness. His eyes glowed in the darkness, reflecting the moonlight. Alex took out his phone, turned on the flashlight. A ray of light snatched a terrifying picture from the darkness. Animals languished in dirty, rusty cages. Their eyes gleamed dimly in the light of the flashlight. The tigers, as exhausted as the lion, lay motionless. The bears apathetically swayed from side to side, showing signs of their long confinement. The monkeys kept themselves huddled in the corners of the cages, desperately seeking methods to keep themselves warm. Alex moved slowly along the rows of cages, shining each one. The picture was just becoming more and more terrifying. In the far corner of the territory, he saw two elephants chained with heavy chains. Their skin was dry and cracked, their eyes lifeless. It became obvious that the owners of the circus left the animals to the mercy of fate. The cages were dirty, without water and food. Some animals looked sick. Others were so weak that they could hardly move. Lev brought him here not by chance. He was looking for help not only for himself. At this moment, the lion let out a soft roar, as if confirming the thoughts of Alex. His eyes were full of wordless imploring. He had completed his mission. He had brought man to his maltreated brothers. Now everything depended only on Alex. Alex promptly pulled out his phone. My hands were trembling with excitement and anger. Fortunately, there was a weak network signal. He dialed the emergency number, trying to speak clearly and calmly. The dispatcher listened attentively to his confused story about the abandoned circus and abandoned animals. As he dictated the coordinates of the place, a faint moan from the cage far away made him jump. The tigress tried to get up, but couldn't stay on her feet. Alex realized that many animals needed urgent help. Every minute of delay might cost them their lives. While waiting for the rescuers, he resolved to scrutinize the territory. Utility room. The remnants of food were present. So did several barrels of water. Alex started systematic weaning around the cages, servicing the animals with water and leftover food. Some were so emaciated that they could hardly eat. After 2 hours, which seemed like an eternity, the sound of approaching cars running was heard far away. The headlights cut through the darkness. Police, veterinarians, and animal protection officers arrived. Powerful spotlights highlighted the area of the circus. A terrible picture unfolded before one's eyes. The rescue operation started immediately. Vets in protective suits penetrated the cages, examined the animals. Many needed urgent treatment. Droppers with nutrients were installed right on the spot. The rescuers worked with hydraulic tools, cutting off the rusted locks on the cages. This was especially difficult when it came to elephants. Their chains had cut deep into the skin, leaving painful wounds. It took special equipment to free these giants. While preparing the transport for transportation, veterinarians immediately began treating their wounds. In the office of the circus, police found documents that shed some light. The owners, facing serious financial problems, decided to close the circus. However, instead of giving the animals good conditions, they merely took all the money and disappeared to condemn their wards to a painful death. The documentation was full of violations. Veterinary certificates are fake, financial statements are falsified, there is no required permit. The owners spared nothing from feed to medical treatment. Animals have long lived under inappropriate conditions. The rescue operation continued through the night. Special vans equipped with veterinary equipment one by one transported the animals to rehabilitation centers. Some had to be moved on stretchers. They were too weak to walk on their own. By dawn, the territory was empty. Only empty cells remained, silent witnesses of human cruelty. It turned out that the lion who brought Alex to the circus was the former arena star, nicknamed the King. He alone had managed to escape from the cage and, by a happy coincidence, discovered the kind-hearted Alex in the forest. Now the predator needed to go through long treatment before he could start a new life in a spacious reserve. During the next week, all the animals were distributed among various specialized rehabilitation centers. Everybody was provided with the necessary medical care. Gradually, they started to recover. After a course of treatment, they were sent to reserves and zoos throughout the country, where suitable conditions for their keeping were created. A month later, the owners of the circus were detained in some small town in Mexico. A lot of money was found on them. Soon they faced trial for all of their crimes. The severe sentence in the form of cruelty to animals and fraud served as a clear signal for the whole industry. This case became the impetus for the grand investigation, after which the whole network of underground circuses was exposed, those very places where the rules for keeping animals were systematically violated. Inspections of traveling circuses began all over the country. The authorities have tightened the demands concerning the conditions of keeping animals, and control over observance of standards was strengthened. The story of saving animals received a wide resonance in the press. Reports from the scene showed local and national TV channels. Newspapers wrote about Alex's heroic deed. Thanks to him, more than 30 animals were able to avoid the agonizing death. Alex started to be in great demand on the streets of his native town. People approached him and shook his hand, praising his bravery. The mayor of the city handed him a certificate of honor. The Society for the Protection of Animals gave a special award for bravery and compassion. The king, the same lion, went through an extended course of rehabilitation and was taken to a big reserve in Texas. A year later, Alex got a letter from the reserve with photos. On them, King looked totally different, healthy and strong, with a thick and beautiful mane, the sparkle in his eyes of a free animal. Looking at these photos, Alex knew his decision to follow the lion that evening was right. Scared and uncertain, he followed his heart, which ultimately saved many lives. The story of the king and the other rescued animals has become one for hope and proof that even one person can change the fate of many.